Hi, sorry. Totally just got lost in this bowl of homemade Alfredo with fettuccine. This is like the most delicious homemade Alfredo sauce. It's super easy. It's 3 ingredients plus a dash of nutmeg, of course with some fettuccine. I'm gonna teach you tips and tricks for cooking the perfect fettuccine noodle, as well as show you how to make this easy, delicious, and affordable homemade Alfredo sauce. We got our water boiling in a large stock pot, and here's why. Your Italian Nonna, which is grandma, Nonna, she might cry if she hears that you break your pasta noodles. We can't break the noodles. I've done it many times. I've done it because I want it to be easier for my tiny humans to eat the pasta. However, to make the best fettuccine Alfredo, we need to not break the noodles, which is why we have the large stock pot here. So I can fan the noodles in here, give them a little swirl. I don't have to break anything. My pretend Italian Nonna is not gonna come after me. We're all good, okay? So when I'm adding these in here, you can do kind of middle and fan, or just kind of let them fan. We don't want these to stick together, which is why we're fanning. I have already salted the water, so don't have to worry about that. They will drop into the sauce when I finish talking, and when I give this a swirl. We want to swirl this for 10, 15, 20 seconds so that nothing sticks to the bottom. The longer noodles have a much higher tendency of sticking to the bottom of the pot, and we do not want that to happen. Sorry, my pasta server was over there. So I'm going to give this a swirl, and as they start to cook, they'll bend a little bit, and I can get them into the water without breaking any noodles. All right, little swirl, little fan, no sticking. There is a debate that rages about whether or not, it doesn't really rage, but we can pretend it does, whether or not to add olive oil or butter, sort of fat, grease, to the water to keep the pasta from sticking together. I say that's not necessary. It's one less ingredient you have to either, I mean you always have olive oil, but you have to add or use. And also, if you do swirl it upon cooking, you're not gonna need it because everything's gonna get broken up. You'll be able to see where there might be some clumpy parts in your pasta. It's gonna start to bend and take the shape of your larger pot and fit in there as this water comes back to a boil. So all that to say, don't think the olive oil is necessary, but if you want to use it, you can. It's gonna get poured out when you drain this anyways, so up to you. I'm not gonna use it. I'm just gonna go ahead and swirl and spin, getting this going so nothing sticks to the bottom and we don't have any clumps happening in here. I do want al dente pasta here, which means we're gonna cook this fettuccine for probably 7 or 8 minutes. And while that's cooking, I'm actually gonna transfer it to the back here, and we're gonna start working on our Alfredo sauce so that that can have a minute to simmer. And then once the pasta is cooked, we will drain it and add it directly into the sauce. So that way the sauce is gonna be warm, it will cook another minute-ish right after we add it in with the sauce. So I'm gonna put the lid on. I showed you this the other day in the other video. I'm gonna put the lid on part way so that the water comes to boiling quickly, but also it's not going to bubble over. So we will be right back to start the sauce. I'm gonna make the Alfredo sauce in a deep 12-inch skillet because I'm gonna add the pasta after we've drained it in with this skillet. So I need space for the cream and the pasta all in the same skillet, which is why I'm using this one. So we're gonna start with melting butter. So I'm gonna do 6 tablespoons of butter, and we're gonna get that melting. And then once that's melted, we're going to stir in the cream. This is the spinella. I like this for spreading and mixing of sauces, but because we're gonna need to really incorporate this, I think I'm gonna go ahead and use my Flisk for this one. I do have a timer set for the pasta, by the way. So I'm gonna make this Alfredo sauce while that pasta is finishing cooking. Oh, it would help if I turned the burner on, don't you think? This pan was already hot from the pasta being over here before I moved it. I'm like, why is this butter not melting? It should be melting faster than this. You just never know what's gonna happen in the kitchen. Okay, here we go. That didn't take long. All right, so butter, simple ingredients. Butter, heavy cream, Parmesan cheese. You really don't even need salt because the cheese has a little saltiness to it. Of course, if you wanted it saltier, you could add a touch of salt, a touch of pepper. The kicker ingredient is nutmeg. You're gonna wanna ground nutmeg, or if you wanna go ahead and use like your microplaner and grate a nutmeg, go for it. That'll level it up a little bit. But a simple ground nutmeg from the spice aisle at the store is going to be just fine. All right, we do not want this butter to start to brown, so it's already bubbling around the edges, so I'm gonna go ahead and just stir in my cream and incorporate, whisk that butter in with the cream. Every drop of goodness. I'm just gonna stand here and hold this for a minute. That would work too. Okay. I'm gonna warm this up. We're not gonna overheat this. As soon as I start to see bubbles forming, I'm gonna add the cheese and then turn down the heat. We do not want to overcook this Alfredo sauce. You also don't wanna let it sit too long without stirring. We don't want it to stick to the bottom of the skillet. So it shouldn't happen. Once we add the Parmesan cheese, that could happen, but we're gonna stir it enough and then get those noodles added right in, so that's not really gonna be much of a problem. I would say that when it comes to cooking, I like to be efficient. I like things to kind of cook themselves. Like that's the whole situation for me. But some things like this are worth standing here and stirring, and they're worth babysitting. A homemade Alfredo sauce is one of those things that's worth babysitting. So it's about time. I'm gonna wait for a few more bubbles to start forming. Again, we don't want this to overcook. So I think it's now safe. We can start to see, I'm gonna turn the heat down and I'm gonna stir in this Parmesan. And again, we need to stir, 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 so that now the Parmesan, we don't want that to either clump or stick to the bottom of the skillet. The Parmesan is nicely incorporated. I'm gonna add a pinch of pepper now. You can always add more to each serving bowl. And I'm gonna add a couple dashes of nutmeg now, and then we're gonna go drain that pasta. Just like, you can just like smell the flavor level up. It just happened. I'm gonna actually turn this up a little higher, medium, low. And then we're gonna get this, let that simmer for a minute, and we're gonna get this pasta drained, so we'll be right back. The sauce is simmering. It's getting a little bit of a thickness to it after we added that Parmesan. And now I'm just gonna ladle in the noodles. You could maybe pour, but I'm gonna ladle just so we don't have a splattery mess. Yum. Because we just drained this, you can see the noodles are a little sticky, so that stickiness of the noodles is going to help the Alfredo sauce stick to the noodles, which is what we want to happen. Also, our fabulous pasta server, which we do have available in our store. I love the stainless option. Super lightweight. It doesn't give. I have a different one that is a different material and it has a give to it, and I don't like that. I'm always afraid the pasta's gonna fall. Not with this one. You do want to give it a little stir. The heat is still on. There's still water escaping, so we don't want anything to stick. I'm sorry, but yum. If you watched the spinach lasagna skillet video, which was the first in the pasta series, you learned that the sauce is looser and will thicken as it cools. Well, Alfredo, this sauce it's light, it's not too thick, it's not too saucy, but we don't want it to cool down. So this is almost the opposite of that spinach lasagna skillet. We want it to be warm. So I am going to transfer over to the other counter and share with you some ways to serve this perfect Alfredo in a warm bowl. I have like a hot second to tell you this because I don't want this to cool down too much. I can already see like the sauce is even starting to thicken a little bit. If I stir it, of course, it'll loosen right up. But what we want to do is serve this Alfredo in a warm bowl, okay? So you can do that in a couple of ways. You can just take warm water, hot water, pour it in the bowl and just let it sit for a few minutes right before serving, dump out the hot water. You know, it'll evaporate very quickly, and then serve your hot pasta, hot Alfredo right into your warm bowl. Obviously be careful if you're transferring it to, you know, the dinner table or wherever. Be careful, warm bowl. Use a trivet or pinch mitts or something to move your bowl. You could also do, if your bowls are oven safe, it's like a ceramic bowl, you could put them in the oven at 200 degrees, a slow oven for 5-10 minutes just to warm up. Obviously, again, be careful using some sort of heat protectant for your hands when you're transferring the bowls around. You could also warm them up. I would put a little bit of water and warm up the bowl in a microwave, 30 seconds. It's not gonna take long. Pour out the water and you've got yourself a warm bowl that way. So there's some options for you. Of course, if you're just like, just feed me the pasta, don't care if my bowl is warm, which is me most of the time, then just go ahead and serve it right into your bowl. And you're going to want to add another dash, just a dash, a little garnish of nutmeg. And that's it, the end. Sometimes it's just the simplest ingredients incorporated together in the right way, and I think that is exactly the best way to describe a homemade fettuccine Alfredo. And I just like, we've had pasta already today. This is what, the third pasta we've made today? I'm gonna eat it anyways, I don't care. It's amazing, it's delicious, and you're gonna wanna make it. So now you know how to make homemade Alfredo sauce at home with just a couple of ingredients. Of course, we talked about how to cook the long noodles in a larger stock pot without breaking them and making Nona mad. We also have these amazing cooking gadgets that you see me using here in my kitchen in our online store. I would love for you to check it out. We have the Flisk, we have this pasta server, all kinds of other important, clever, practical gadgets that will make cooking in your kitchen easier. I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned something. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are sharing new episodes every Wednesday at noon Central Time, hoping that you will get more confident and more creative in your kitchen.